listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and check us out online at beardedtheologians.com. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
This week on the Bearded Theologians, we're going to talk about James chapter 3. So, Zach, as we look and talk about James chapter 3, and as bears are entering into your town, a fire alarm or something,
it's lunch. No. This is the lunch bell.
Is that Michael ringing the lunch bell?
It is.
Okay. So Zach, this week we're in our James series. This is the third week for it. So obviously we're in James chapter 3. And it talks about taming of the tongue. And so as you think about that, and as you think about James wrote, where does that take you?
This is one of those things, one of those passages that people use a lot to talk just about language, talk about bad words or cursing or whatever, I think, and it's so much more than that, than what James is saying here. He's talking about the way that we speak, in how we talk to people, and so when I think taming of the tongue, I think less of about cursing and things like that, and more about probably sarcasm or the tone of voice that we use with people. And I think about that mainly because I fancy myself as a quick-witted person. In all of my life, it's got me in trouble, mostly with my parents and my wife. But that's where it gets me in trouble. It's just that quick wit of, just being reactionary in the things that I say, whether it be with sarcasm or on a less or on a more serious note, anger or frustration and that kind of thing, and just spouting off and in saying, getting myself into conversations or not helping conversations, and so taming of the tongue for me is very much that, just knowing when to speak, in how to approach those situations. Not with sarcasm or not with anger or not with a reactionary type of response, which is more often what I want to do than not, and it's not ever helpful probably. So Matt, what about you? When you think of taming the tongue, where do you go? What's your response?
So James 3:10, blessing and cursing come from the same mouth. And then it continues on, my brothers and sisters, it shouldn't be this way. And I think when I think of that, I think of how we can go from blessing to cursing someone with not even skipping a beat. And I'm in the same boat you are. My mouth probably gets me in more trouble than it really ever should. And if I would just shut up sometimes, I would get myself out of trouble, at home, at work, out in play. And I remember, so the softball team I play with, we got T-shirts for winning the championship, and the T-shirts said "Good game, good game, good game. I hate you. Good game, good game, good game" on the back. Great idea. So when we were having our dinner the other night, they said, "Well, if Franks would have wrote this, it would have been I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Good game, I hate you, I hate you." And some of that is that on the softball field, I can tend to be a little bit mouthy and not a guy you want to cross. You don't cross my streams on the softball field. It's just the one place where I can let me fly. And but I also think that we also are called to be witnesses, and the struggle that we have, and the struggle that we have to manage is that every opportunity that we're in front of someone is an opportunity to show people what the grace of God looks like. And so the best opportunity we can try to do is bless. And so I'm always trying to watch myself. I'm always pulling myself back. I'm always holding it in such a way that it keeps me from having to say I'm sorry because I screwed up because I jumped the gun or I got too excited, and that's taken some time of discipline and learning to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think far too often, if we would learn to listen, that would keep us out of trouble.
Right. Well, and you're right. It's that discipline. James is talking about consistency here, especially in that verse of here's blessings and here's, curses right out of the same mouth. This is a consistency thing. How do we be consistent in all that we do, in every room that we walk into, in every conversation that we have? And so, when we step onto the softball field, how do we be consistent? When we step into the pulpit, how do we be consistent? When we come to the podcast, how do we be consistent? And find that not happy medium, but that grace medium in between all of that.
So in 16, actually really 16 through 18, 16 to the end today.
I thought you were talking about 2016 for a minute. Okay,
all
right.
That was last year. But in 16, I think when we look at like 16, we look at that last little section there, really 13 through 16. We've already kind of talked about how, show that your actions are good and humble and lifestyle comes from wisdom. But jealousy and ambition, that's when we get into trouble. When we get jealous or we have this ambition that's unhealthy. And I think of how often everyone, and it does happen to clergy too. Sometimes there's unhealthy ambition where we want that next better appointment, and that we think that the grass is greener on the other side, or because and I think far too often we get so jealous of other people that can kind of get us into trouble. And I think we got to pay attention to where our heart is and where our focus is, and ask ourselves, when we have that ambition, ask ourselves, is our ambition healthy or is it unhealthy?
Right.
And then, those who make...
I was going to say, well, even in our current appointments or current situations, regardless of your context, are you asking yourself, is this the best for my church, or is it my way or the highway? And that's huge. In jealousy plays a lot into that. Looking for that next appointment, looking for the grass to be greener, plays into those decisions quite a bit. Well, I want the next big thing, so it's going to be my way or the highway, so I can take the next step up here. I've worked with a lot of people that way, both in and out of the church. It's tough.
Well, and I think the last line here, I think it's key for us today in the midst of the chaos that we live in our world and the political upheaval of craziness that we've got going on. And this is something that even as our president has been tweeting and angrily preaching, this line comes to mind, verse 18. Those who make peace sow the seeds of justice by their peaceful acts. If we're going to change the world, if we're going to make this place a better place, we've got to come at it from a place of peace.
Yeah.
And we've got to be willing to do it in a way that is respectful of others and that allows others to have that opportunity to be peaceful and to get to know one another and have full understanding and just get to know one another. I think far too often we just drop the ball on that. And
well, you look at the things that Jesus says and calls us to, whether it be the fruits of the spirits, the Beatitudes, anything Jesus calls us to, it centers around peace, being peaceful. To be poor in spirit, you got to be peaceful. To be meek, you got to be peaceable. It revolves around peace. To bear good fruit starts with peace, not knee-jerk reactions, not anger, not sarcasm, not all of these things that we're prone to. And you're right, to bring forth peace, we got to start with peace.
And I think that's part of the problem, is that we're not at peace.
No, not anything, not politically, not personally, not socially, not anything. nobody's at peace right now. And we don't get political on this podcast, but it's timely for sure.
Yeah. And so, what I want to challenge our listeners this week is, how can you sow seeds of peace? And it starts with you. Mm-hmm. We can sing that song, and we won't, because we don't want to kill you, is let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Yep. And that peace does begin with you. And so how can you bring peace about in the world? I think that's a good question to think about. That's something to wrestle with. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us today. We encourage you to go look on our website at beardedtheologians.com, and we've got all sorts of great stuff and swag. And, we'd love for you to have conversation with us through Facebook or Instagram, or, wherever else that you connect in. We're so thankful for you as our listeners. And for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
And I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. We hope you've enjoyed listening, and we hope that you share our content online through Facebook and social media. And we hope that you check out our Beardcast store at beardedtheologians.com and pick up some great Bearded Theologians gear. We hope you have a good day.
I'm going to do this NPR style.